Concord is the very first town that you will stumble into in Fallout 4. And due to Concord being such an early game location, most players will progress through it very quickly and rarely return. But the town of Concord and the surrounding areas are full of real life history and very strange scenes which make you ask questions like, why was there a vertibird and power armor on the roof of the museum? What was this statue for? And why was the last Minuteman hiding in the museum in Concord? So in this video, we're going to answer all of those questions and take a deeper dive into the lore of Concord. The town of Concord was founded in 1635 by English settlers, making it one of the earliest colonial settlements in New England. It was named after the peaceful agreement, or Concord, made between the settlers and the Native American tribes in the area. You can find signs noting the year Concord was founded when entering the town from the west and south. On April 17, 1775, British soldiers in the area were involved in the initiative to quell the growing tide of revolution, under the command of General Thomas Gage. Gage had received orders from the Earl of Dartmouth 4 days prior to see all artillery, ammunition, provisions, and weaponry held by the colonists of Concord destroyed. The general ordered Lieutenant Colonel Smith to take 21 companies of their best soldiers in haste and secrecy to Concord in order to disarm the militia. Gage instructed Smith to destroy the weaponry but to avoid harming the colonists, stealing from them, or destroying their property. And before midnight, Smith set out with 700 soldiers from the Boston Common to carry out his orders. In response, Paul Revere instructed Robert Newman to climb to the top of the Old North Church, lighting 2 lanterns to alert the colonists that the British forces were approaching from the Charles River. While Robert Newman broadcasted the warning, Paul Revere started towards Lexington and Concord on his famous midnight ride, to warn fellow patriots that the British had mobilized. The 2 forces met near the Old North Bridge, starting the Battle of Lexington and Concord and ultimately sparking the Revolutionary War. A Minuteman monument is located near the bridge between Concord and Sanctuary to commemorate the event. In the 19th century, Concord became a hub for thinkers and writers. The town was home to literary giants like Ralph Waldo Emerson, Henry David Thoreau, and Louisa May Alcott. Emerson's house and Thoreau's famous Walden Pond are still popular historical sites. The town's centerpiece, the Concord Parks Recreation Department's Museum of Freedom, showcased these historical events and welcomed tourists, while the rest of the city displayed remnants of flags and signs reading "Celebrate History." On the day of the Great War in 2077, a vertibird carrying a squad of US soldiers, including Staff Sergeant Michael Daly, was struck by a massive EMP that knocked the vehicle out of the sky, causing it to crash into the roof of the Museum of Freedom. Most of the crew survived, Daly included, due to wearing his suit of T-45 power armor. In the time following the nuclear apocalypse, the squad's numbers dwindled, due to deadly encounters with scared survivors and simply fear-induced panic, until it was only Daly left, who decided himself to abandon and go find his sister in Boston, leaving the vertibird and the power armor residing on the building's roof for the next 200 years.
Personal log. United States Army Staff Sergeant Michael Daly. This past Saturday, October 23rd, while en route to West Stockbridge, a vertibird crashed into the roof of this museum. The cause? EMP following nuclear detonation. Several, in fact. From the intel I've gathered, this was a global event. The co-pilot was killed on impact. Pilot died of his injuries a day later. Day after that, Flaherty and Canower were shot by some scared, desperate survivors. Then Brzezinski took off running. Haven't seen him since. Now, it's my turn to go AWOL, if that concept even applies anymore. My armor's fusion core is burned out, so I guess my soldering days are done. I'm heading to Boston, on foot, to see if my sister survived all this. She's got an apartment on Boylston Street. This is Mike Daly, signing out. Good luck, and God bless America. Or what's left of it.
This would become the very first power armor suit that the sole survivor finds in Fallout 4 and uses to defeat the Raiders and the Deathclaw in Concord, which allows Preston Garvey and the settlers he is with in the museum to escape to Sanctuary. Before the Great War, Sanctuary Hills was a suburban neighborhood of Concord, Massachusetts, separated from the main town by its location on a small island surrounded by Misty Lake, connected by a wooden bridge. Among the residents was the sole survivor, who you play as in the game, who lived in a house with their spouse, their son Sean, and their robot butler Codsworth. On Saturday, October 23, 2077, there is a knock at the sole survivor's door, which ends up being a Vault-Tec rep who is there to get the sole survivor to reserve their spot in Vault 111. Minutes later, the nearby city of Boston was nuked. This forced the people living in Sanctuary Hills to flee to Vault 111. Now, most of them attempted to make it into Vault 111, but only a select number who reserved space were able to make it inside in time before the nuclear missiles impacted the area. The Vault-Tec rep who knocked at your door unfortunately was not allowed into Vault 111, even though he was a Vault-Tec employee. But his story doesn't end there. Despite being unable to secure a spot inside Vault 111, the Vault-Tec rep managed to survive the nuclear exchange. The radioactive fallout didn't kill him, but mutated him into a ghoul.
Ghouls? What are ghouls? Wow, you really aren't from around here, are you? Ghouls are irradiated people. Most are just like you and me. They look pretty messed up and live for a long time, but they're still just people. The ones I'm talking about are different. The radiations rotted their brains, made them feral. They'll rip you apart just as soon as look at you.
He then lived in Sanctuary for about a year, while his only companion was Codsworth. Players can actually find the Vault-Tec rep in-game by going to the Hotel Roxford in the Good Neighbor settlement, and then recruiting him to your settlement and putting his sales experience to work as a vendor. At some point after the Quincy Massacre in the 2280s, through her alleged ability of the site, Mama Murphy told Preston Garvey about Sanctuary, a place where they could finally be safe from the dangers of the wasteland. The survivors then traveled through the wasteland looking for Sanctuary, but one disaster after another kept pushing them further northwest until they ended up in Concord. It is here that they are then ambushed by raiders who have been tracking them since Lexington, forcing them to take shelter in the Museum of Freedom in Concord, which is where you meet them at the start of the game. Then you rescue them and send them to Sanctuary. To the south of Concord, you can find Walden Pond, which is a real-life historic location. On the north shore of this pond is the home of Henry David Thoreau, who lived there from the summer of 1845 until 1847. Hoping to gain a more objective understanding of society, Thoreau was influenced by the principles of transcendentalism. His account of the experience was recorded in the book Walden, or Life in the Woods, which made the pond famous. Before the Great War, the site became a tourist attraction. A gift shop was built next to the cabin, and the audio tour associated with it was sponsored by General Atomics International. After the war, the cabin will still be standing, but the pond is irradiated and dried up, exposing a drain pipe that the player can enter to find a raider hideout. The last location around Concord worth mentioning is the Red Rocket truck stop that the sole survivor will find dog meat. This was once Concord's nuclear coolant replenishment and service station. Before the Great War, the employees there under Mr. Benson were awarded by the Boston Regional Office of Red Rocket for the greatest year-to-year waste reduction by a single store. However, the company was unaware of how they had done this, which was by dumping their hazardous waste in a cave located beneath the station. This would then affect the future wildlife, mutating them and making them very deadly. But that is the real-life history of Concord and its surrounding areas. But there is still so much more Fallout 4 lore to go over, and this is just the beginning. So if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing for more, and thank you for watching.